Curaçao may be famous for its beaches, but not all beaches are created equal. My 2-week adventure on the island, where I visited a new beach every single day, I'm breaking down the best beaches on the island using my very official beach scorecard. Before we dive into the beaches themselves, let me show you how I'm rating them across 3 different categories. Value for money. Some beaches do have an entry fee on top of the likes of beach chair rentals, and the facilities vary quite a lot. Snorkelability. Snorkeling. Let's be real, the main reason I visited all of these beaches was for Curaçao's incredible marine life. Spoiler alert, I did find one of the best snorkeling experiences of my life at one of these beaches. And lastly, vibes. Is it overcrowded or overhyped? Does it have a perfectly Instagrammable scenic location? How accessible is it in the first place? Right, now that we have the scorecard ready to go, let's kick it off with the very first beach I visited, somewhere that wouldn't usually be top of my list. On our very first day, we visited the Avila Beach Hotel, which is a private resort beach that you can get a day pass to for $15 per person. You do have to reserve that on their website in advance, which we didn't know and didn't do, and they gave us an exception on the day, and that's just so they can control the numbers on the day, which is ultimately a good thing. This beach is walking distance from Willemstad, which is really great, and it had some pretty good snorkeling. Kind of set our expectations for the rest of the trip. It's obviously a super scenic resort vibe. They've got 2 different beaches to choose from. Everything's really nice and clean and aesthetic, so it's a pretty good option if you don't want to stray too far from Willemstad. Marichi Beach, aka Playa Punda, was recommended to us from our walking tour guide, who is a local from the island, and it very much had a local vibe. It's free entry, there's absolutely no amenities whatsoever, but it's super central, right in Punda. It had some pretty good snorkeling too, thanks to the pier and the reefs that kind of appeared underneath that. There's a lot of construction going on at the moment, which made it not aesthetic whatsoever, but the pier would be a really great vantage point for sunset. Kokomo Beach was next for us. We kind of started within Willemstad and slowly ventured further and further away. So this is a few minute drive away. Pretty bumpy dirt road to get there, but it is a free entry beach. And if you arrive late in the evening, you probably won't have to pay for some beds. That's what happened for us. Maybe a bit of a travel hack in general. And it's happened to us quite a few times in different beaches in different countries. It seems to be less likely that you'll have to pay if you arrive later in the evening when most of the people have already left. This was a very beautiful beach. It has the swing, which is great for your Instagram photos, and the best snorkeling we had done so far. The following day, we headed south to Thiel Beach. This one is $3.50 per person to enter, and we found it was very busy and very packed. The beach chairs are really kind of squished in there, which gives it a totally different vibe to the beaches we've been to so far. Again, it's kind of given that beach resort vibe. There are a few bars and restaurants, so you could settle there for the whole day and be happy out. However, the snorkeling wasn't as good as Kokomo Beach, so it wouldn't be the top pick for me. The famous Tugboat Beach. Pretty well hyped. I had pretty high expectations for this one, I'm not gonna lie. It's free entry to the beach itself. It opens at 8:30, which is good to know because we arrived at bang on 8:30 ourselves, and they were literally setting up shop when we got there. Chairs and beds are $8 per person. They have like a little shack on site for we can get some drinks and some snacks, but there's also a really great restaurant just down the road called Bursa del Mar. And this is where I had the best snorkeling of my life. Obviously you have the famous tugboat where it gets its name. You swim out towards the left to get to that, and nice and early in the morning there was very few people there and there was tons of fish. It was truly breathtaking. But even the whole swim out, you're swimming above lots of coral reefs, so you're actively snorkeling and watching all of the fish the whole swim out to it. We did notice that a couple hours later, when all the tour groups would arrive off boats, there was way more people obviously, but also way less fish, because they're most active first thing in the morning. Going there by yourself rather than on a tour first thing in the morning is the best way to do it. On the opposite side then, if you swim sort of towards the big oil rig that's there are some artificial reefs that have been planted on the seabed, and that was really cool to see. I'd never seen that before. The vibe at this beach was brilliant. They have loads of like toys for you to use to help with the snorkeling and the swimming. We didn't do any of that because it is a little bit pricey, but they also had workshops like driftwood painting. There's a real like community atmosphere when you're there, which is really nice, and there's lots of little dogs running around. Always a bonus for me. We're now halfway through my 2-week trip, and for the second half we stayed up at West Punt in the northwest of the island and visited more of the beaches around that area. So the closest one to our accommodation was Playa Forti, and this had a really lovely chill vibe. It seemed to be more popular with locals. It's quite close to the Turtle Beach, which I'll get to in just a minute. It was a totally different vibe. Nice and calm and quiet, free entry, no amenities necessarily, so you just bring your own stuff, pop your towel on the sand, get in for a swim. There wasn't a huge amount of fish when we snorkeled, but there is some if you go up towards the rocks, and you can also do some cliff diving. For sunset, you have 2 different restaurants to choose from up on the cliffs that both have incredible views of sunset. So that's something to plan into your day there as well. The following day, we drove out to Groot Nip, and this was the first public beach that we'd seen that seemed to have a lot of infrastructure and investment put into it. There's a really large car park, and there are bus stops right there, so you could get to it with public transport. By the car park and the cliffs just above the beach, you also have a number of food stands to choose from. There's a stall on the beach renting things like snorkels and flippers, and again, there are beach chairs. We didn't get any, so I don't actually know how much they cost. This is a beautiful white sand beach, and it has pretty good snorkeling too. Then we decided to try out another beach resort with Playa Kalki. So you can actually get free entry on weekdays, and then it's $11.50 roughly for chair rentals. You get access to the pool and their beach. The pool has a beautiful infinity pool. And then of course you're getting the whole beach resort vibe. People are going around asking you if you'd like any food or drinks. So it's a good value option if you're looking for that resort vibe for a day. Playa Lagun is actually one of the only beaches that we went back to. Even on first impressions, it was one of our favorites. Chairs and beds here were only $5 to rent, and it had amazing snorkeling. We saw so many brand new species here for the very first time, including flounders, pufferfish, and seahorses. Apparently, you also have a pretty good chance of seeing some sea turtles here as well. We weren't lucky in that case. This is a really scenic beach. Again, seems to be quite popular with locals, and it's a very small car park, so either arrive early in the morning if you want to be there for the whole day, or just show up in the afternoon like we did. And now finally, Turtle Beach, aka Playa Piskado. This is a free entry beach, and there are chairs to rent. Again, we didn't rent them, so I'm not 100% sure how much they cost. And it is a very, very popular beach, so you're going to want to get there early. This is the beach we actually did our scuba diving from, so we got to see the turtles while scuba diving. And if that's something you're thinking of doing, I highly recommend. It was a much nicer experience to get to see them a little bit deeper out in the water. There's not tons of other people around. But then we also came back a couple days later to snorkel. We arrived too early in the morning because the turtles weren't awake yet, it would seem. It seems as though they show up at about 9 a.m. So if you want to get in there quick, have a quick snorkel with the turtles before the crowds arrive and leave, that's the time I'd recommend, because all of the crowds and tour buses show up from about 10 a.m. And then honestly, from that point on, it's not somewhere I would want to spend any time. It is way too overcrowded, and unfortunately there are a lot of tourists that do not respect the turtles. If you read reviews online, you'll see horror stories of people trying to touch them, accidentally kicking them, and it's just not nice. So bear that in mind and only show up if you're willing to respect the turtles. Put that as your priority. Just a quick note to say that obviously all of these prices and all of this information is accurate as of the dates of my travel, which were the first 2 weeks of February 2025. So make sure you do your own research too when you're planning your own itinerary in case anything has changed. Conversion rates from US dollar to guilder also kind of vary across the island, depending on what rate the individual business chooses. Some of my conversions for the prices of entry or beach chairs might be slightly off. So there you have it. My very official, totally scientific beach scorecard has spoken, and drumroll please, Tugboat Beach comes out on top. Between the all-round amazing snorkeling, the shipwreck itself, and the overall vibe of that beach, it's really just unbeatable if you love being in the water as much as I do. And Playa Lagun was a close second. That beach looks and feels like a postcard come to life. And what makes it even better, you have a chance of seeing sea turtles there as well, in a completely different environment to Playa Piskado. Of course, this is all based on my personal experience and what I look for in a beach. So if you've been to Curaçao and you have a different favorite, please let me know in the comments below. I'm already dreaming about going back one day, so I'll take all the recommendations that you have. If you found this helpful, or you just want to see me continue rating things with arbitrary scorecards, make sure you're subscribed. My next video after this one will be a guide to all of the other adventures and activities on the island that aren't snorkeling, so stay tuned for that. Or if you want more Curaçao right now, watch this vlog next. Otherwise, I hope you have a joyful week, and I'll catch you in the next adventure.